Rock 95, doing a little extra duty today, and such a pleasure to talk. I don't know what to call you, writer, comedian.
Yeah, I don't know what to call me either. Professional BSer. I think that's what you can do. Yeah.
We're talking with Charlie Berens. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm outstanding. Such a pleasure to talk to you. I love your humor so much. It's just crazy.
Awesome. So much.
I just watched the mosquito one. We'll get to that in just a second. But maybe give us a little backstory about yourself. I assume you're probably born and raised over in Wisconsin.
Yeah. What tipped you off on that one there? Jeez, born and raised in Wisconsin, and then went to school for broadcast journalism and kind of did the journalism thing for a while. I got a voice coach to sort of get rid of my Wisconsin accent. It didn't work out so good. I did a bunch of local news jobs around the country. And, being in broadcast, they kind of want like a neutral accent. So I screwed that up in pretty much every market I was in. And I ended up doing a stand-up bit at one point about, sort of my character. But it was, instead of somebody who goes into local news and does all the things they're supposed to do, this kind of a guy who embraces everything people said is wrong about him. And that's where the Manitowoc Minute character came in. And so we did one Manitowoc Minute and it did well. So I did a bunch more, and then kind of got into Midwest sketches and Midwest music and all that sort of stuff from there. So it was a cool jumping off point. Of course, stand up as well. So.
That's such a outstanding story. So you were at other radio markets or doing what, radio news? What were you doing?
I was doing local news TV, actually. So I was in Dallas. I was at KDAF in Dallas, and I didn't go in doing traditional news. I was always kind of like doing comedy news and sort of that infotainment thing of YouTube and all that back in the day. And then I got I auditioned for this job at KDAF to be a host where they were trying to do comedy news, but it didn't work. So they just kind of threw it out. And then we sort of did more traditional news a couple months after I got there. So I was kind of unwittingly in this very traditional news thing, and my accent didn't always serve me well there. So
they didn't really understand what "ope" meant?
No. Yeah. And when you say bubbler live on air, and then people are like, is he talking about some of you smoke the devil's lettuce or what's going on? No, that's just what we call some of you drink out of in Milwaukee. And they're like, it's called a water fountain. No, that's where you go get the change for the meter. So all those differences in culture, just kind of wanted to celebrate those.
Good Lord, you've got 1.7 million followers now on Facebook. Holy crap.
Yeah, it took off, and I'm pretty fortunate for that because, before the Manitowoc Minute, I was doing sketches, and I kind of committed to doing one a week at one point, and none of them really got a ton of views. And it wasn't really until I embraced the kind of myself and the Midwest thing that it started to take off. So,
well, one of the first pieces I ever saw from you, and it's where it kind of really sparked, and I started to follow the rest of your stuff, was the Target store parking lot bit. And I don't know, are those other comedians or just friends of yours or?
Yeah. So that's my buddy Taylor, who's Dude Dad, Miles, who's the You Betcha guy, and then Penn, who's with the Holderness family. And they all have their own brands and their own things. So that was kind of a big collaboration we did together. It was actually Dude Dad's idea. So it was a lot of fun to shoot in the Target parking lot. We didn't really have permission to do it, but we didn't get kicked out, thankfully. We were there all day, though. We could have.
Well, I enjoyed the writing. I don't know how you put these things together, if you write them down or script some of the stuff out and ad lib from there, but maybe you can tell us how you do some of that, but it comes off perfectly.
Oh, I really appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is, walking around. I got my notes section, and I'll think of a bit or a piece of an idea on the notes. I'll write it down. Then I'll go back and kind of write out a script if I'm being a good boy. If not, it'll be a lot of improv, and we'll find it. That's a lot harder to edit I got a great team that helps me, and they always prefer when I write a script first and not just figure it out in the edit, because that's always a lot more nail biting. It's a lot late nights if you don't write it out beforehand. So,
are you always thinking about, the different skits and things, and stuff just pop into your head? The Siri and Cheryl thing is genius too. Do these things they just come to you somehow, and you're like, you start from a little idea and it blossoms, and now you've got the Siri thing in the junk drawer and the.
Yeah. It's always like, you take the observational things, which are not really unique to me. I'm taking observations that a lot of people know about the Midwest, like a junk drawer. That's not something I came up with. It's something everybody has. And sort of the phrases we use, that's not something I came up with, something everybody does. So you try and find those observations, those points of reference for people. But then, that's the hardest part in a lot of ways. And then doing the jokes after it, that's where it becomes easy for a comedian. It's like, just what are we doing a bit on? A lot of times fans will send in ideas and we'll end up doing them. So that's always fun, because I feel like then the fans feel like they're helping build this. And that's, even the Manitowoc Minutes, we try and include submissions from fans and fan ideas, all that sort of stuff. So.
Well, I think why this connects is, first off, it's funny and it's relatable and stuff we all realize living here in the upper Midwest is things we do and say all the time, but it's also being kind of poked fun at by somebody who is one of us, rather than, somebody from New York or Los Angeles or somewhere.
Yeah, I think you can tell. SNL did a bit on, I think, Fond du Lac a couple of years ago, and they pronounced it wrong, and they were doing kind of a mix between Wisconsin and a Boston accent. So it definitely feels more right if comedy's all about the specifics, and if you can get the specifics right, it's just going to feel more authentic and real. And the cool thing about the Midwest, and especially Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, it's like these are places that, have this sort of, sense of humor, always liking to laugh at themselves and joke about themselves. And so it's fun to play in an environment where the audience really appreciates it and gets a kick out of it and has no problem laughing at themselves.
And you're clearly a lifelong Packers fan.
You betcha. Absolutely. Don't tell me you're a Vikings fan now. Actually, you can be a Vikings fan. Just don't be a Bears fan.
I was going to ask you about that, because you do take a few shots at Viking fans, but it seems like more of your focus is on the Bear fans. So
100%. That Bears-Packers rivalry is one that goes back to the beginning of the NFL, and it's, the oldest rivalry in the NFL. And Bears fans appreciate it. I appreciate a Bears fan giving me crap, and I hope they appreciate it in return. And I know I get a lot of messages, but that's what makes it fun. I would never make fun of a Vikings fan, because that's like kicking a horse that's been dead for years and buried.
Whatever. Well, take me back to the championship game. Kick the field goal, or I'll give it to Aaron Rodgers.
Jeez Louise. Well, I'm always putting the ball in Aaron Rodgers' hands. Okay.
Right.
I would never want to be in a position where I'm making that call, but, I would definitely put the ball in Aaron Rodgers' hands.
Hey, even as a Viking fan, I'm watching the game like, God, give it to Aaron Rodgers. Give him a shot, for God's sakes. One of the best quarterbacks in the history of the game. Let him try and decide it. But.
Yeah, and I think they've talked to LaFleur after the fact, and I think he said in retrospect he would have done that. But, it is what it is.
Well, let's talk about some of your new bits, too. I think the mosquito one maybe was last week you put that out. Terrific.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's we made that last year, but sort of reposted it on Facebook for the beginning of mosquito season. Of course, then I put it out for the beginning of mosquito season, and it snows like the next day. So, probably poorly timed again. But yeah, no, I always thought about mosquitoes. They get a bad rap. But you got to think, everyone's swatting at them and this and that. And what does that do to them? What's the emotional toll it takes on a mosquito. So I figured, what if a mosquito saw a therapist? And that's kind of what that sketch turned into.
Yeah, that's really good too. He died from the clap. God, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, now you're not only you're doing all these bits and skits and stuff, but I know you came on today because you want to talk about a folk album that when does that come out? Is it out now? We're going to play a little sample from that in just a second here.
Yeah, actually, so it came out in November, and we were lucky enough it got to the top of the Billboard Bluegrass charts, and it got on the comedy charts as well. So we were really fortunate. That's a big thanks to the fans for making that happen. And but with COVID and everything, we didn't really get a chance to tour with it. And I did the album with Adam Grohl, who from Horseshoes and Hand Grenades, who deserves pretty much all the credit for making it sound musically good. I can write songs and kind of mess around the guitar, the mandolin, but from a musical standpoint, he really makes the magic happen. And we're going to tour with the album pretty soon here once things open back up. So.
Well, very cool. Where can people find out more information about you? I know you're all over on social media, but if people haven't seen your stuff, I hope you do and check it out.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's at Charlie Berens on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. You can also go at Manitowoc Minute, and if you want the album, it's on manitowocminute.com.
Well, Charlie, thank you so much for your time. I know you're busy and wish you all the best. You ever get close to Mankato, swing in. We won't give you too much of a hard time for being a Packers fan, but
I'd love to. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Take care, Charlie. Appreciate your time.
All right. Watch out for deer. Bye-bye.
Watch out. Let's do this. This is called Sandbar, a little sample from Charlie Berens.